once Skip left for FS1, right? It was probably 9-10 years ago, it feels like. Max Kellerman became the second main co-host of Stephen A after a period of time. And to be honest, the Stephen A. Max Kellerman was, I believe, the best version of First Take to date. Because I feel like when they started phasing Max out, you saw the whole culture of not just First Take, but really ESPN change. It really became about screaming, hot topic, and more about the being wildly short attention span entertaining without the deep backdrop, or I don't even say knowledge, but at least Max always brought like a perspective that regardless if you agreed or not, he added a legitimate value and perspective that took time and attentiveness to his takes. And he had a good sense of humor where he could go back and forth when things were, not so serious to serious. To me, that Max Kellerman and Stephen A is the best version of First Take to date. I know Skip put it on the map. Not taking away anything he did. Without him, there would be no First Take. But the most mature, resolved, with entertainment, Max and Stephen A. They really balance each other well. Like, if you really look at the dynamics of it. And Stephen A, obviously, after years, wanted him out. Now, there are reports, and not even reports, he's flat out say, yeah, I wanted him off the show. I felt like the show would be better without. He basically wanted to make himself the star. And until they got Shannon Sharpe on there, and Shannon Sharpe's only on there like twice a week, I think. And even before they got Shannon Sharpe, it was Stephen A and a bunch of random people day by day. And that sounds great, but it also made it where no one wanted to return, continue watching the show, because it just wasn't people want to know what they're tuning into every day. I know Stephen A is going to be here, but honestly, if the guests can very, very depend on who comes back, it does not make the show more interesting. When you fall, I wouldn't say love with a personality, but when you get into the rhythm of a dynamic between two people, that's what you come back for. You'll listen to two people debate each other about anything. You don't have to rely on the subject matter being the most topical for people to come listen to you. That's when you know people actually care about you and your perspective. I think that's what we're all trying to strive for people that do this. You want to be able where you talk about anything you want, where it's not so topical, where it's not trending, and you at least have a fan base that will come and at least want to hear what you have to say about it. They wait for what your opinion has to say about it. I think, in my opinion, now there is a racial component. People made it where it felt like Max had more respect from the black community than Stephen A, which is a very touchy subject. Because there was some political stuff on there that Max simply had a specific type of point of view, and then Stephen A didn't agree, and he alienated some people, in his fan base potentially. And that kind of turned people off. And then the Terrell Owens thing is, I think, what really put it on blast. Max never made it like he was trying to be something he's not. You look in the background, he's from New York. I don't remember if he's from New York or New Jersey, but he's from deep the city. He actually was a rapper at one point. He grew up, in that type of culture and environment. So, but he didn't even try to act like what you would perceive someone who's trying to appease, a culture or anything like that. He never did. He actually felt authentic in the stuff he's saying. I think that's why people respected Max. And I think that intimidates Stephen A. because he wanted people that couldn't intellectually match up with him. He wanted to keep the show surface level. I believe that the whole goal of all this was to keep First Take surface level. To keep it about sound bites, yelling. And I don't remember the recent, but I don't even think First Take is number one on their own network anymore. Like, Stephen A is still the king of ESPN. That's not the point we're making here. But the show itself is very diluted at this point. Like, even when Shannon Sharpe's on, like, if we could be honest, if we're going to be really, really honest about it, First Take with Stephen A and Shannon Sharpe has been pretty underwhelming. Not saying they're not great, but it does not feel like the type of show that we thought we were getting. It feels a lot more stripped back. Like, Shannon Sharpe does not act as loose and with all, like, the entertainment sayings. I know he's on ESPN, so he's got to be a little bit held back in certain ways, but it almost seems like he's reserving his whole personality, his whole entertainment for his own show, Club Shay Shay and Nightcap. It feels like that's more of where you will get the entertaining Shannon Sharpe that people fell in love with on Undisputed. Like, Undisputed with Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless was the second the show was being aired on. There were people, South Korea, server posting their clips illegally on YouTube. And we be eating that shit up. Like, 20 minutes after they have a segment, that shit's on the internet. No one's fucking doing that. No one in a third world country is clip farming Undisputed these days. No one gives a fuck. Undisputed's not even a thing anymore. No one's doing that for Speak. No one's even doing that for Get Up. First Take, you'll see a few here and there, but it's not every morning talking about every topic type of thing. Like, the appeal isn't there. So, I think First Take died when Max was kicked off the show. It's been a very underwhelming. It's not the same splash as, like, the hire of Shannon Sharpe. Like, Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. is going to be some unreal. Like, you watch, like, I watched I'm thinking, okay, Super Bowl reaction, one of the biggest times of the year for these shows. And it was pretty tame. Like, Jalen Hurts, he really went out there, he had that one pick. It was very, like, there's no personality. It seems like they're trying to, the appeal of it has not lived up to the hype, is what I'm saying. So, kind of going back of how that all ties in, is I think when we went into this direction of trying to be hot takey without the substance and entertainment, when everything is just about yelling at each other, everything's becoming about some racial attachment, and there's application to that in the stuff they talk about, but a lot of times it just feels like when they run out of any decent intellectual points, or they don't even want to go through the work of creating an interesting point of view, they just attach to that, and then they have the sympathetic card towards it. And I'm basically talking about, like, Ryan Clark when it comes to a point. Like, I think he's fine. I don't have anything against him personally. I don't even, there are times when, the racial stuff is important. But, the stuff with, like, I think it's like, if Lamar doesn't win MVP, it's like, well, he's won twice. I love Lamar. I wouldn't have been mad if he won it this year, but, there was plenty of other good candidates this year too. Josh Allen was a pretty worthy candidate. Me personally, Saquon Barkley probably should have been more of a person who should have won it. And that's a bigger issue in terms of voting and stuff. But, for me personally, I just, I think Max Kellerman, I don't know if you guys remember, but But like on the most serious topics, even stuff that ESPN probably like a lot of fans didn't like when they talked about, if you look back at like the clips and the segments, like Max Kellerman is typically the most well thought out person. And here, like if you were going in with a complete no opinion about something, and it was between Stephen A, Max, and whoever third guest they had, whatever the subject are, you would probably say Max Kellerman came the most prepared. Max Kellerman is able to navigate the conversation in places that most people wouldn't and couldn't. He was very good at talking and very good at really getting to the point and the core issue a lot of times. And not just focus on the stupid, oh, it's all about championships. I don't want to hear nothing when you've lost 4 of your last 5 games against this team. Like, you know, and, you know, you could make the argument, and maybe this was Stephen A's point of view, if I had to be fair, that not everything has to be philosophical. Like, this is entertainment TV. But at the same time, Max was filling in a missing piece that I think we miss dearly now. Because all these shows is just a lot of, I'm going to be honest, like, I can't stand LaShawn McCoy. I can't stand, like, I respect him as a player. But it doesn't even feel like he's gotten out of, when they do their broadcasting and TV training, it literally looks like he's still like a player when they're doing stuff mid-season or on a bye week or in the playoffs when their team didn't make the playoffs and they're just giving him some practice. Like, it really still looks like he's like not been trained like in TV. Like, there's no flow to his thing. Everything's about what he's got to say. He's focused on being a hype man and all this stuff. And it's like, bro, relax. You're next to Chase Daniel. Let's relax. Even Emmanuel Acho's like, all right, man. Can we relax here? You notice how Emmanuel Acho, he's not doing the whole thing he did with Marcellus of trying to be like these preacher and trying to get deep in, because we're going to get in Marcellus. Let's do it. And Marcellus and Emmanuel, to me, that was one of my favorite duos. Their conversations and their point of views on things. Even if sometimes it got a little too deep in the weeds, but it always felt like they had something for each other. And they could like talk about something and you still be engaged. Regardless of whether you believe in Acho and all that stuff, they were entertaining. They worked well together. But similar to Emmanuel Acho, I think he saw what Stephen A did with Max, and he said, no, I got to be the biggest star of this show. What did he do? Start getting Troy Taylor's cheeks. But he started, and I don't think he directly I want Marcellus fired. But he definitely made some insinuations and moves in the back. Like, he wasn't mad that Marcellus was getting let go or that he didn't get re-signed to his contract, whatever happened in that situation, which is still ongoing for the Charlie Dixon situation, but neither here nor there. We still see he wanted that rotating cast of people that can't really compete with him. So he can always seem like the biggest dog in a small kennel. Or he could be, what was it called? Big tree in a small fish. What the fuck is it saying? When you're big fish in a small pond, whatever it is. He wanted to not only be the big fish in the small pond, but take over the ponds all around the city too, And when you get greedy like that, and you don't have to be, there's not that competitiveness every day. There's not that there's not that person that you're competing with to be more articulate, to have a point of view, to have a perspective. You could come in with your same bland point of views and just regurgitate the shit, and you're going to keep the show going. But when you have to keep up with a Marcellus, or you have to keep up with a Max, which ironically come back together, because if you don't remember, Marcellus and Max, kind of after the reiteration of Colin and Michelle Beadle leaving Sports Nation, they kept that Sports Nation shit going. And they made it a really good show. They had a really good dynamic. And they're really good friends, as far as I know. At least great business partners, you know. So, it's kind of weird how it all works. You see the direction of sports TV. You see the direction of what a consumer wants.